July 6th, we got Shakur Stevenson stepping back into the ring against Artem Harutyunyan. A lot of people heard of Artem Harutyunyan when he fought Frank Martin. Came up short in that one, got the loss. Prior to that, not too many people had heard his name. Doesn't really matter how good he is. He wasn't fighting over here in America. And when guys aren't fighting over here in America, your popularity is just less, right? It just is what it is. You can like it. You can not like it. You can think it's fair. You can think it's unfair. But there's a reason that everybody who's from another country wants to come over here and fight. And it's because when you're fighting over here in America is when you get the brightest lights. That's when you get the biggest showcase. So we saw that when he came over here and he fought Frank Martin, right? And he fought good, man. I mean, look, this guy knows how to fight. I said not a lot of people knew him, but he went to the Olympics and he won a medal. Okay, he comes out here and he's putting in good work. Didn't get stopped by Frank Martin. Did a lot of good things. I love the way he uses his feints. He uses hand feints. He uses foot feints. The guy goes in there and he's feinting when he's going to change levels. He works combinations. He's on the front foot. Busy fighter, averaging over 64 punches per round. That's a lot of work, right? And just that by itself can throw a lot of guys off and have them keep their hands in their pockets and not get their offense off because they're worried about what's coming back, right? Overall, this isn't a guy to be overlooked. Even though when we look at the line, we see Shakur 25-1 favorite. Man, a 25-1 favorite. That's an absolute blowout. Okay, I saw the post on Instagram this morning from Coach Kenny Ellis, right? And I got a lot of respect for that man. We saw what he's been able to do with Gervonta Davis. His name doesn't quite get as much buzz as Calvin Ford, but nevertheless, the man has a lot of boxing knowledge. And if you were to follow him on social media, you'll see these little posts that he puts out and everything. Gives a lot of good insight. And what he said to this one was that if Shakur Stevenson does not get this stoppage, he is not the second best lightweight in the world, right? Obviously, he's referring to his man, Gervonta Davis, as the best in the world. He said Shakur needs to get this stoppage to be considered second best. If he doesn't, he's going to consider Abdullah Mason the second best lightweight in the world because he figures that Abdullah would be able to get that stoppage. Now, let me say this. Man, that's a bold statement. That is a bold statement, okay? Abdullah Mason is a phenom. The dude is an awesome fighter. He's going to be a world champion one day. He could, whatever you say, right? He's going to be undisputed. The potential is there. He's going to be a pound for pound, top of the pound for pound list. The potential is there. Like, the dude's awesome. He's young. He does phenomenal work. Top Rank is moving him up the food chain. They're pairing him up with better and better fighters, and he's continuing to go out there and impress. Saw him in person last year at the card out in Ohio, man. Great stuff. But if Shakur doesn't get this stoppage, that means Abdullah Mason is better? Dude, Abdullah Mason hasn't beat one person as good as Oscar Valdez. That's it. He hasn't. That's it. I'll just pick one fight off of Shakur's resume. That's it. Just that one fight. Regardless of everything else that he's done. Abdullah's never went out there and beat a guy like that. His resume can't be considered best in the world or second best in the world, third best in the world, whatever the case may be. I think this is a little bit a gamesmanship by the coach. And I can respect that, right? But I think it's a little bit of gamesmanship. He's trying to apply pressure to Shakur. He's trying to let him know that there's people out there who are watching who are going to be incredibly critical if you don't go out there and get the stoppage. He's letting people know, like, all eyes are on you, dude. You got all this pressure on you. And he's trying to consistently, I think, apply this mental pressure in the build-up to what we'll eventually see, which is eventually we're going to see a fight between Gervonta Davis and Shakur. And when that time comes, I think that he wants so much pressure and so much mental buildup to be on Shakur Stevenson through all the months or the years or however long the fight gets taken made that he isn't able to go out there and perform his best. On top of that, I'm sure that in the actual buildup in the press conferences, Tank is going to be out there talking crazy to him, running his mouth, pointing in his face and all kinds of things. Again, trying to get in his head, trying to throw him off, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's gamesmanship in that regard, and I respect it. But let's be perfectly honest. I don't care if Shakur Stevenson goes out there and wins 12 of these rounds, if he wins 9 of these rounds, if he stops him in the third round, if he stops him in the ninth round, whatever the case may be, I'm not willing to put Abdullah Mason on the list above him like that. Although one day he may very well be, because Abdullah Mason is a beast. Who's to say? He's significantly younger, so you got to imagine he'll be around longer, all of those types of things. But here's the thing. When we look at this fight between Artem and Frank Martin was able to come out with the victory. Look at the things that he was able to do. He was able to go out there and land his jab. And he was able to land his jab by stepping inside of Artem's lead foot. He was able to start getting his counter lefts off because Artem likes to be aggressive. He's got a good work rate. It means he likes to come forward. There's going to be opportunities. Frank was able to find that counter left. He was able to move a little bit. He was able to use some angles here and there. He was able to pull back, and he was able to set some traps to start to get things off. Overall, Artem saw a lot of success, right? He did very well, but he lost that fight. And if we think about the performance that he put on, if we think about the performance that Frank Martin put on, and then we imagine what's going to happen in there against Shakur. Dude, if Frank Martin's able to get his jab off, Shakur Stevenson is going to be able to get his jab off. If Frank Martin was able to land counter lefts, Shakur Stevenson is going to be able to land counter lefts. Now, it'll be a little bit different Right? Shakur, for example, he loves to lean back and then look for shots. He loves to come forward with that jab and work combinations. I think he goes to the body a little bit better and more frequently than we see from Frank Martin. So the fight will look different in a lot of regards in the actual X's and O's and the technique of how it's played out. But when it's all said and done, I fully expect Shakur Stevenson to be in control of this fight from start to finish. Like, he's too good, man. He's too good from distance. He's going to be able to win on the outside with the jab, with his hand speed, with his footwork. That's going to force Artem to come forward even more than he wants to, or even more than normal, because there'll be no success on the outside. So he's going to have to come forward. And when he does, that's going to play right into Shakur's hands, man. He loves to pull back. He knows how to gauge that distance and pull just out of range and then land a sharp counter, as good as anyone out there. Well, maybe not as good as anyone. Terrence Crawford is probably one of the best with it. But nevertheless, you get my point. Like, the dude's really good at it. He's going to be really good at coming forward and landing those shots to the body. And we saw in the fight with Frank Martin, Derek James told Frank Martin in the corner, he's like, dude, keep throwing those counters. Keep landing those counters. As you land those counters, he's going to start throwing punches less and less because he's worried about what's coming back. It's the exact thing we're going to see in this fight with Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson, man, he punches hard. I get it. He doesn't have a lot of knockouts and everything. That part of that's his style. I think he can still crack, though. And even if he doesn't have, he doesn't have one-punch knockout power or anything, but I think he can crack enough that he's going to keep guys honest. He can hit hard enough that guys aren't just going to bum rush at the kitchen and come in and do whatever they want on him or anything like that. Not going to happen. So he's going to start, he's a sniper too, man, a sharpshooter. So every single little hole that Artem leaves, Shakur's going to be there ready to pick it up. Maybe he doesn't capitalize on 100% of them, but he'll be able to capitalize on any one that he chooses to. Then he's landing from the outside with the jab. Then all of a sudden he's sticking the straight lefts in there. Then he's going to the body. I think we're going to see a point at which Artem becomes a little bit confused, has to deviate from his game plan. And as soon as he stops being so aggressive, as soon as he stops applying so much pressure, that's when the fight will shift and we'll actually see dominance from Shakur Stevenson. Instead of just going out there and winning the fight, instead of going out there and saying, hey, he's in control of the fight, whenever that may happen, 4th round, 8th round, 9th round, 10th round, whatever it is, that Artem starts to dial it back a little bit, right? Starts to turn that dial down just a little bit as far as his offense is concerned because he's worried about what's coming back. Whenever that point in the fight comes, that's when we're going to see complete dominance from Shakur Stevenson. Now, does he necessarily get a victory? Or, does he necessarily get a knockout? I don't know. He really wants one, dude. He really wants one. He's talking about how much damage he's going to do to this dude, how much he's going to cook him, how much punishment he wants to inflict and all this kind of stuff. It's because so many people were mad about his last fight. So many people were just unimpressed with the performance that he put on. He's a boxing purist, man. And so many guys out there nowadays, like, they just want gladiators and bloodshed, and they want everybody to go out there and get the knockout, and they want everyone to just be acting like they're just eating raw meat on the way to the ring, and they just can't wait to tear somebody's head off and everything. And that's cool. But there's more than that. There's complete technicians. There's guys out there who are snipers. There's guys out there who are just brawlers. There's guys out there who are defensive gurus. Like, there's so many aspects and facets to the sport when you're actually talking about a fighter being in there and operating in a just top of the food chain type level. So I get it, man. And I get it also from the sense that Shakur wants to make money. He wants his name out there and he wants to get the biggest paydays possible. And to get the biggest paydays possible, you got to be on pay-per-view. And to be on pay-per-view, you got to be able to sell. You want to sell, you got to have the fans' interest, right? That's really what it all comes down to. All the money, no matter how it gets divvied up and all of these different things and percentages, it all comes back down to the fan. That's where all the dollars start. If the advertisers don't think they're going to make money on their ads because the fans won't buy or the fans aren't seeing it, they're not going to give you advertising dollars. If the pay-per-views don't sell, you don't make money. If the seats don't sell, you don't make money. If you can't sell the seats for a high enough price, you don't make money. That's what it all comes down to, which is why we see him on Twitter saying everything that he's saying and talking crazy to people. It's why we see him saying that he's going to cook this dude and he's going to punish him and everything. It's because he wants to come out there and look as impressive as possible. Let me just say, going in, the dude's a phenomenal boxer. He's still pretty young. He's got an incredibly bright future ahead of him. I want to see him fight the best in the world. I hope that he doesn't allow all this talk and all of this desire to get these super impressive knockouts and all of these other things. I hope it doesn't allow him to deviate from who he is. I hope he doesn't change up his game plan in there and try to become somebody else. Because Shakur Stevenson is an awesome fighter. And if he tries to be somebody else, I don't know if he's going to be that awesome. If he tries to all of a sudden get all crazy and start going for knockouts and trying to be somebody he's not, I don't know if we're going to see the same level of brilliance. And that's really what I want to see. I want to see a guy out there just doing things that are just absolutely phenomenal. That you look and you just scratch your head and think, wow. Right? You just, after that fight, you think, man, that dude can fight. I want to be able to go out there and do something in my life as good as he goes out there and fights, right? That type of performance that just impresses you and motivates you to go out there and be better. That's the type of guy that Shakur Stevenson is. That's the type of skill level and technique that he has. But I don't know if he's going to be able to exercise that if we see him worried about how impressive he's going to look. He just needs to go out there and be himself. The dude's impressive enough. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think Artem's got a bigger shot? Do you think the 25-1 is a crazy number? Do you think Shakur is going to be able to go out there and get this stoppage? I mean, if he does go out and get the stoppage, what are we going to see from him afterwards in the ring? Who's he going to be calling out? Who's he going to be talking about? What are we going to see from him on Twitter? What's everybody going to be saying about him in the performance afterwards? I think there's a lot going on with this one, even though it's not the biggest name card and he's just a huge favorite going into it. So let me know what you guys think.